We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I'm Mark Angelides. We're continuing our conversation with Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. Earlier in the show, we've been talking about the necessity of protecting free speech and how recent events in the UK, in many ways, tangentially, are impacting the United States. And I think it's time to talk about a certain immigrant to the United States, arguably the most successful African-American immigrant to the United States, Mr. Elon Musk. You see what I did there?
I didn't see that one coming.
There you go.
I appreciate that.
Now,
Indeed.
he's engaged in some kind of digital slanging match with the UK government because of various tweets that he's made, X posts that he's made on his X platform, discussing the situation in Britain. And specifically, I'm talking about the riots and the unrest that have so marked the last couple of weeks. Now, we have a movement among government, sitting government in power, to limit what people are able to say and also what people are able to see on their social media. And this was exemplified just before arguably the biggest social media event of the year, the Trump-Musk interview. I don't know if anybody watched that, but it was pretty fascinating. And just before that, a commissioner of the European Union, please bear in mind that Britain is no longer part of the European Union, yet for some reason there are still various statutes that apply. But he put out an open letter to Mr. Musk saying that he has responsibilities to ensure that incitement and hate doesn't appear on his platform. And that was timed to go out right before his interview, or his conversation is a better word, his conversation with former President Donald Trump. And it seems to me that there's veiled threats there, as in, nice social media company you've got there. If you don't follow what we tell you, you're out of Europe.
Well, it seems like a veiled or maybe not too veiled threat. Anytime the government body, regulators or legislators or presidents or prime ministers speak like that, that has to be what's implied, is not that they're commanding the body politic or asking people in civil society to respond, but that they're speaking with the hammer, of their government power behind it. And of course, when Musk bought Twitter, he said he was doing so to secure the electronic public square for Americans and I suppose the world. And so he's going to, I expect, push back against that and continue doing so. And to the extent that he does it, he's a hero for free speech. I've certainly been critical of him. Matter of fact, I saw some reporting earlier about Donald Trump's criticisms of Musk with his reliance on taxpayer-funded subsidies to advance his Tesla company. And I was and have been and still will be a vocal critic of that all day long. But I think right now we have to count him as a free speech hero, because we know that when Jack criticized Jack Dorsey, and I forget the woman's name that he appointed to run Twitter when he was off surfing or doing whatever he was doing, who was a cheerleader for these trust and safety councils that inevitably, somehow or another, always muzzled and throttled the speech of conservatives and libertarians and people who were anti-state and pro-individual rights, and openly, kind of turned up the volume and reach on posts by pro-establishment, anti-speech advocates. So Elon is in for the big win on this, and I hope that he succeeds not just here in the United States with his pro-free speech stance, but also in the UK.
So there's an interesting aspect to take out of this, that there have been threats and insinuations that American citizens posting about events in the UK could face extradition. Now, before you give me your legal analysis on that, I figured that's ridiculous bluster on behalf of the people who are making these statements.
Yeah.
However, I'm not so sure that if the current trajectory of the lack of respect for free speech, free expression, and indeed the First Amendment continues on this sort of downwards track that's happening in the United States, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there could come a time when that does happen, when people who post about international affairs, that country that is, let's call it a digital pearl clutching at the very heights of government, and they decide to try and teach the world a lesson, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It can't happen, or can it?
Well, let's take the first thing first. And you're right to say that this is not the law currently. And that's why you can, for instance, blaspheme against Islam in the United States and not suffer extradition and the death penalty in Saudi Arabia or another country that punishes those sorts of statements. Because in the United States, our free speech protections include a superseding protection against any kind of international attempt to criminalize our behavior, for instance. So for now, anyway, Americans don't have to worry about that, although they do have to worry about it for the future. And you're right to point it out. And that's the reason why I think that what's happening in the UK is so important to Americans. It's not just some rando republic somewhere that has no bearing on our future. Not that it's foretelling our future, but it's always important for us to protect free speech by being ever vigilant. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
We'll be back after this short break on a whole new topic. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.